It all started with a knock at the door, a petty HOA complaint, and a Karen who thought she ruled the neighborhood. But when she called the cops on my wife for ignoring her, she had no idea she was messing with the town's police chief. Buckle up for a wild ride of drama, power trips, and sweet, sweet justice. If you love juicy HOA drama and epic Karen takedowns, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss a single story. Let's dive into this neighborhood showdown. The sun hung low over Willow Creek, a picturesque suburban enclave where manicured lawns and pristine picket fences masked a simmering cauldron of petty grievances. At the heart of this community was the Willow Creek Homeowners Association, a self-proclaimed guardian of property values, led by its unofficial queen, Deborah Hensley. Deborah, a woman in her late 50s with a perpetually pinched expression and a clipboard that might as well have been surgically attached to her hand, thrived on control. Her days were spent patrolling the cul-de-sacs, her eagle eyes scanning for infractions. A mailbox slightly askew, a hedge an inch too tall, or, heaven forbid, a car parked a fraction too close to a curb. To Deborah, these were not mere oversights. They were personal affronts, challenges to her authority that demanded immediate correction. Enter the Thompsons, a new couple in Willow Creek. James Thompson, a high school history teacher with a penchant for gardening, and his wife Lauren had moved into their modest two-story home on Maple Drive just 3 months prior. The couple was quiet, unassuming, and kept their property immaculate, a fact that should have kept them off Deborah's radar. But Deborah didn't need a reason to target someone. She needed a victim. Lauren, in particular, caught Deborah's attention. There was something about her calm demeanor, her refusal to engage in neighborhood gossip that grated on Deborah's nerves. Lauren wasn't rude, but she didn't bow to Deborah's self-appointed authority either. She'd nod politely during HOA meetings, then go about her day. Ignoring the endless stream of notices, Deborah slipped under her door about approved paint colors or proper lawn ornament placement. One crisp autumn morning, Deborah's patience, or lack thereof, reached its breaking point. She'd noticed a small decorative windmill in the Thompsons' front yard, a charming addition James had installed to complement his rose garden. To Deborah, it was a violation of HOA Regulation 14.3, which vaguely prohibited non-approved lawn fixtures. Armed with her clipboard and a freshly printed citation, she marched to the Thompsons' door. The knock was sharp, insistent, the kind that demanded immediate attention. Lauren, inside, preparing for her day, heard the knock but didn't answer. She was used to Deborah's unannounced visits by now and had no interest in another lecture about grass height or mailbox alignment. Besides, she had more pressing matters to attend to. She was due at work in an hour. Deborah, however, was not accustomed to being ignored. Her knocks grew louder, more aggressive, until they echoed through the quiet street. Neighbors peeked through curtains, sensing the brewing storm. When no one answered, Deborah's face flushed crimson. She scribbled a scathing note on the citation, accusing the Thompsons of willful disregard for community standards, and slid it under the door. But that wasn't enough. The audacity of being ignored by someone she considered beneath her authority was intolerable. She pulled out her phone, dialed the non-emergency police line, and reported a neighborhood disturbance at the Thompson residence, claiming the windmill was a safety hazard and the homeowners were uncooperative. As she hung up, A smug smile curled her lips. She'd show them who ran Willow Creek. Unbeknownst to Deborah, Lauren wasn't just any homeowner. She was the newly appointed police chief of the town, a fact the Thompsons had kept private to avoid unwanted attention. Lauren had spent years climbing the ranks, earning respect for her non-nonsense approach and unshakable integrity. She'd moved to Willow Creek for a quieter life outside her demanding job, not expecting to become the target of a power-hungry HOA tyrant. As Deborah strutted back to her house, convinced she'd won this round, a police cruiser pulled into the neighborhood. Lights off, but presence unmistakable. The officer, a young sergeant named Ramirez, stepped out and approached the Thompsons' door. He knocked politely, unaware that the woman he was about to meet was his boss. Lauren answered this time, her expression calm but curious. Ramirez explained the call about a disturbance and the windmill. Lauren's lips twitched, not in anger, but in amusement. She stepped outside, still in her civilian clothes, and inspected the windmill. It was small, unobtrusive, and clearly not a safety hazard. She thanked Ramirez for his diligence, then casually mentioned she'd handle the matter herself. Ramirez, confused but professional, nodded and returned to his cruiser. As he drove off, Lauren picked up the citation Deborah had left, her eyes scanning the accusatory note. She didn't react outwardly, but a plan was forming. She wasn't one to see conflict, but she also wasn't one to let petty tyranny slide. Deborah had just made a very big mistake, and the consequences were about to unfold. The day ended with the neighborhood buzzing. Whispers spread about the police visit, with Deborah gleefully fueling the gossip, painting the Thompsons as troublemakers. But as the sun set over Willow Creek, the stage was set for a reckoning. Deborah thought she'd asserted her dominance, but she'd unwittingly stepped into a battle she couldn't win. The next morning, Willow Creek woke to a new kind of tension. Deborah, emboldened by the previous day's events, decided to escalate her campaign. She'd spent the evening drafting an email to the entire HOA board demanding an emergency meeting to address the Thompsons' repeated violations. The windmill was just the beginning, she claimed. She accused them of failing to submit proper landscaping plans, parking their car improperly, and even suggested their recycling bin was suspiciously overstated, a vague but ominous charge. The email was a masterpiece of passive-aggressive vitriol, copied to every homeowner in the neighborhood for maximum effect. By noon, the HOA board agreed to hold the meeting that evening at the community center, and Deborah was practically vibrating with anticipation. She envisioned a public shaming, a moment where she'd cement her authority and force the Thompsons into compliance. Meanwhile, Lauren went about her day with her usual calm efficiency. At the police station, she oversaw operations, reviewed reports, and handled a minor incident involving a local shoplifter. But the HOA email forwarded to her by a neighbor didn't go unnoticed. She read it during her lunch break, her expression unreadable. James, who'd come home to find the citation and heard about the police visit, was less composed. He wanted to confront Deborah, to tear up the citation in front of her, but Lauren placed a hand on his arm. She didn't need to say much. Her steady gaze told him she had everything under control. She wasn't interested in petty arguments or public spectacles. Her approach would be methodical, precise, and devastatingly effective. That evening, the community center was packed. Homeowners filled the folding chairs, some there for the drama, others genuinely curious about the Thompsons' alleged crimes. Deborah stood at the front, her clipboard now replaced by a stack of printed evidence. Photos of the windmill, the recycling bin, and even a blurry shot of James' car parked slightly off-center. She began her presentation with a dramatic flair, outlining the Thompsons' supposed disregard for Willow Creek standards. She spoke of community pride and upholding values, her voice dripping with self-righteous indignation. The crowd murmured, some nodding in agreement, others shifting uncomfortably. The Thompsons notably were absent, which Deborah took as further proof of their guilt. What Deborah didn't know was that Lauren was watching, not in person, but through a live stream set up by a sympathetic neighbor who'd grown tired of Deborah's reign. Lauren sat at home, her laptop open, observing every word, every gesture. She noted the faces in the crowd, the ones who supported Deborah and the ones who looked skeptical. She wasn't angry, she was calculating. Years of police work had taught her to read situations, to understand power dynamics, and to strike when the moment was right. Deborah's performance was laying the groundwork for her own downfall, and Lauren was content to let her dig deeper. As the meeting ended, Deborah announced her next step, a formal complaint to the city, requesting an official inspection of the Thompsons' property. She was certain this would force them to remove the windmill and bow to her authority. The crowd dispersed, some whispering about Deborah's overreach, others convinced she was protecting the neighborhood. Back at home, Lauren closed her laptop and turned to James. She didn't need to explain her plan. He trusted her implicitly. The pieces were falling into place, and Deborah's empire was about to crack. The following week, Willow Creek was a powder keg. Deborah's complaint to the city had triggered an inspection, and a city official was scheduled to visit the Thompsons' property.